6 marca, godzina 19. Jesteśmy w warszawskim kinie Luna, gdzie ma się odbyć organizowane przez Fox Polska spotkanie fanów z trójką aktorów z The Walking Dead: Alaną Masterson, Rossem Marquandem i Sefem Gilliamem. Warszawa to jedno z 5 europejskich miast na trasie The Walking Dead Euro Tour i jedyna jak dotąd okazja, by spotkać w Polsce aktorów z The Walking Dead. My byliśmy oczywiście na spotkaniu, na które wcześniej mogliście wygrać wejściówki w facebookowym konkursie, ale także mieliśmy okazję pogadać z dwójką z nich: Alaną, czyli Tarą, i Sefem, czyli Gabrielem. O czym naprawdę jest The Walking Dead? Co czeka wkrótce Tarę? Kto jest ulubionym bohaterem Sefa i czego najbardziej się boi?
I think that Tara as a character, like you said, has had quite a journey from the start when she first came in with the governor, and she is a fighter and she's true to her group and her people, and she also I think is one of the only characters left that really has a lot of humanity and asks the questions that have kind of been forgotten in this world, you know, like why are our lives more important than other people's lives? Like, just because it's viewed that you know, say Negan and his group are the bad guys, are they, you know, are we allowed to just take from other people, and are we just as bad as them? You know, if we're going to take from others, aren't we doing what Negan's doing to us? And I think she has a lot of these issues and these morality issues that she asks, and I think that's an admirable quality, because she is someone who does ask the hard questions.
Gabriel is a person who's trying desperately to find a way to prove that he is of worth, that he can be of use, that he can be of service, somewhat similar to the way he was before the world fell apart, when he could be a bit of a conduit between his parishioners and God, and offer some sense of hope or comfort. And I think he failed them tremendously and tragically, and is in the time that we've come to meet him to where we are now, has been trying his best to make up for that, and to not let something like that happen a second time.
The stress of what Cindy did for Tara and saved her life. I mean, if it hadn't been for her, Tara would be dead and wouldn't even be here. So she said, please promise not to tell anybody about this place. Like, you can't. If they do, we'll all die, just like our fathers did, and our sons and our brothers. So for Tara, it's not that easy to just give it up. It's, you know, and people can say, oh, it's, you know where the guns are, why aren't you telling anybody? But it's so much more than that. You know, these are women and children. That's all that's there. You know, if I tell Rick about this group, they're going to go storm a bunch of women and children and take everything that they have to protect themselves. And does she want to live with that? Does she want to live with that, or are there other options? Can they find more guns? Is there another way? And I think that's what she's hoping throughout this, you know, the time that is passing, is that they can find an alternative. And obviously it's getting to a point where there isn't an alternative, and she's going to have to tell Rick about the guns. And it's upsetting to her. She made a promise, and, you know, she doesn't want to break it, but it looks like it's going to have to be done.
I believe he still sees himself as a priest. I think he's still trying to be a priest to the community. It might be a little outside of just, you know, reading Bible verses to them or taking confession, but it is trying to remind them that there are reasons for living, that there is a purpose that they all have, and to not to give up, to never give up. Everyone in the group is essential to the group, and it's important that they know that they are not alone, that no one is alone as he was for, you know, like a year and a half, which I'm sure must have driven him somewhat crazy. It's the way that the worst way we find to penalize prisoners in jails, at least in the United States, is you take them away from the population and you put them in isolation. And it's the isolation where the people have time to go over what they've done that's gotten them to the point where they are now separated from everyone else. And I think it kind of drives people a bit mad, and it's the last place they want to be.
The showrunner and the writers are open to your input. I mean, obviously they have a general idea of the character and how they're going to be, and usually they write me pretty well, but if something that I definitely you know, vehemently disagree with, I'll say she wouldn't do that. That doesn't make sense to me. And maybe there's also things, you know, that Scott will do where I won't understand. I'll be like, Tara would never do that, but it sets it up for a later episode, or it sets something up for further down the line. So, you know, I as an artist, you also have to trust the people in charge, and you know, they're not here to make you look bad, and they're not here to do things that would ruin your character. But sometimes you do have to sit back, even if you disagree with something and you're like, I wouldn't do that, Tara wouldn't do that, but you know, usually it's for the right reason.
I'm not so sure that the show is about zombies. I think the show is about people. I think it's about maintaining your humanity. You know, what are we like when there are no laws, when there is no structure, when there are no rules? Do we become our basest form? Do we become animals? What is it to be a human being, and the burdens of being a human being, and not just living off of your animal instincts. I think that, to me, is what the show is about. The zombies are really cool. I think it'd be a much slower show without violence. I think, yes, there is a great deal of violence in the show, but I mean, if you look at the source material that it's based off of, it's like 1/10 of the violence that's in the graphic novels, the comic books. I'm not one who particularly cares to see violent movies or violent television shows. I prefer watching sporting events, which can get violent. And, you know, the Animal Planet, or shows about ghosts. But I would say, you know, again, you have the option of turning off the TV, you know, if it's too violent for you, and that's totally valid, you know, but you have the choice. You can take it in or you can shut it out. But, you know, taking it in and then complaining about it seems kind of like, well, why would you spend the time watching something that is so troubling to you, you know?
When I first got there, I thought, you know, they said I'd be there for a couple episodes, and then after I shot those episodes, they said you'd be here through the season, and then the next season happened, and I was like, oh, I made it out alive, and then the next season, and now we're on this season, I'm like, oh, I'm still here, you know, it's really nice, but I feel like there's a place in this world for Tara, and I think that she's, you know, amassed some wonderful fans, and you know, she's got a real great storyline, and you know, if and when the time where she leaves or stays, you know, I think it'll be wonderful either way, and I'm, you know, obviously so excited to be on the show.
I did not watch it before I was on it because I'm a little squeamish when it comes to gore and bloods and guts. You know, I'm the kind of guy who watches things like that. So no, I didn't watch it, and I decided when I got offered the role that I would watch it for about 15 minutes to get a sense of the tone of it, and then like wound up watching the first 3 seasons in a day, and then season 4 the next day, you know, and I couldn't stop watching it. I had to watch the next one, and I had to watch the next one, and it was really compelling to me. And at that time, I was like, why wasn't I watching this show before? It's not about zombies at all. It's about people, you know.
A typical day at work. You know, other shows that are the same amount of time take double the time to shoot, so they can kind of have nicer hours. We try to cram so much in 8 days that sometimes it feels like your head's going to explode. And you know, I wake up for work at about 4, and I, you know, drive to work, and I get there and eat breakfast, and then we start, and we're kind of just pedal to the metal the entire day. And the crew is working so hard, and if we have to change locations, it's a whole company move, and everyone has to just really be on their game, and you have to be, you know, as professional as you can be. I mean, never show up to work, you know, not knowing your lines or late, because there's so much riding on it. It's not just about you. It's such a collaborative process, a TV show, and you know, it's a job, and you have to be respectful and punctual, and I think that's what makes good actors, and good shows, because everyone does give 150%.
My favorite character is Rick Grimes, you know, and that, you know, that it could be because I've become a big Andrew Lincoln fan, but I think he's a fascinating character. You know, he's a sheriff in a lawless world, you know.